The morning light from 3 different suns filtered through the massive glass dome of the Andromeda Xenobiology Academy. Inside Classroom 7B, students from across the galaxy settled into their seats. Some sat on chairs, others floated in special tanks. A few hung from the ceiling by choice. Hyunwoo walked into the classroom and took his usual seat near the middle. He carried a simple backpack and wore the standard academy uniform, modified slightly for human proportions. Around him, several alien students shifted nervously. They always did when he arrived. Humans had a reputation, and not everyone was comfortable sitting near a Deathworlder. "You are late again," said a voice beside him. Taesung, his roommate, was already in his seat. The Velkorian's pale blue skin seemed to shimmer under the artificial lights. His large eyes blinked sideways as he looked at Hyunwoo with concern. "Only by 2 minutes," Hyunwoo replied with a smile. He dropped his bag on the floor and sat down. 2 minutes is still late. What if there was an emergency? What if the professor started without you? Taesung's breathing slits on his neck fluttered with worry. Everything worried Taesung. His species came from a moon with almost no dangerous life forms. The idea of risk made him uncomfortable. "Then I would catch up," Hyunwoo said. He pulled out his datapad and prepared for class. Around them, other students whispered and prepared their equipment. Ji-won, an Aquarian female, adjusted the controls on her water-filled mobility suit. She needed to stay submerged at all times. Through the transparent material, her gills opened and closed rhythmically. She glanced at Hyunwoo nervously before looking away. Across the room, Daehyun was talking loudly to a group of students. The Thermalian male enjoyed being the center of attention. His reddish skin glowed slightly, a sign of his species' natural heat generation. "I am telling you, my species could survive temperatures that would kill most of you instantly," Daehyun boasted. "We evolved on a planet near our sun. Extreme heat is nothing to us." "Very impressive," said young Mai quietly. The small Whisperkin female sat nearby, her antennae twitching as she released calming pheromones. Her species rarely spoke above a whisper, and relied heavily on chemical communication. She seemed uncomfortable with Daehyun's loud voice. The classroom door slid open with a soft hiss. Professor Ixthari entered, and all conversation stopped immediately. The professor was a Lumini, a species made of living crystal. Light refracted through her body, creating rainbow patterns on the walls as she moved. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Good morning, students," Professor Ixthari said. Her voice resonated like wind chimes. "Today is an important day. Today you will face your practical examination." Several students shifted uncomfortably. Practical exams were always stressful. They required hands-on work with real specimens instead of holograms or simulations. "For the past semester you have studied xenobiology through observation and theory," the professor continued. "You have learned about life forms from dozens of worlds. You have memorized their behaviors, their biologies, their environmental needs. But today you will interact with them directly." Taesung's breathing slits began fluttering faster. Hyunwoo noticed his friend's distress and gave him a reassuring nod. "I have brought specimens from 4 different worlds," Professor Ixthari explained. "Each represents a different environmental extreme. Each poses unique challenges. You will work in pairs to examine, document, and catalog these creatures using proper safety protocols." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed images of 4 creatures, each more alien than the last. Gasps and nervous sounds filled the classroom. The first image showed a serpentine creature covered in frost. "This is a frost serpent from Glacius Prime," the professor explained. "It exists at temperatures of negative 150 degrees Celsius. It will be kept in a cryo-containment field." The second image showed an insect-like creature with a glowing red carapace. The magma beetle from Pyro 7. It requires temperatures of 800 degrees Celsius to survive. Extreme heat containment will be necessary. The third image displayed a floating, translucent being with trailing tendrils, a void floater from the Kepler asteroid belt. It lives in near-vacuum conditions. Pressure containment is essential. The fourth and final image showed a creature about the size of a large cat, covered in sharp spines and barbs. It had 6 legs and a long tail tipped with what looked like a stinger. The thornback prowler from Verdantia, a predator with toxic spines and venomous barbs. This is classified as a Class 4 predator. The classroom erupted in worried chatter. Young Mai's antennae released stress pheromones that made several nearby students even more anxious. Jiwon's suit bubbled as she breathed faster. Even Daehyun looked less confident than usual. "Silence, please," Professor Ixathari said calmly. I understand your concern. That is why we have extensive safety protocols. You will use remote manipulation tools. You will have protective force fields. You will wear environmental suits if necessary. No student will be in any real danger. How dangerous is the Thornback Prowler? Asked one student, a Metharian who lived in a suit filled with methane gas. Its venom can cause paralysis in most species, the professor replied. Its spines can pierce standard clothing. It is aggressive when threatened. But with proper precautions, it is perfectly safe to study. Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair and studied the images with interest. The creatures looked fascinating. He had seen similar animals on Earth, though obviously not identical. The Thornback Prowler reminded him of several Earth creatures combined together. You will be assigned partners, Professor Ixthari continued. Each pair will have 2 hours to complete their examination. You must document physical characteristics, behavioral patterns, and environmental requirements. Your reports are due by the end of the day. The professor began calling out names and assigning partners. Taesung gripped his desk tightly, his knuckles turning even paler than usual. Hyunwoo and Taesung, you will work together, the professor announced. Taesung turned to Hyunwoo with wide eyes. We must be extremely careful, he whispered urgently. These creatures are dangerous. We must follow every protocol exactly, no risks. Promise me, no risks. Hyunwoo smiled. I promise we will be safe, he said. He did not say they would follow every protocol. Taesung did not notice the difference. The professor finished assigning partners and gestured toward the back of the classroom. The examination rooms are prepared. Each pair will be called when it is your turn. While you wait, review the safety documentation on your datapads. Study the procedures carefully. Your safety depends on it. Students began accessing their datapads, reading through pages of safety instructions. Hyunwoo glanced through them quickly. Most of it was common sense. Keep distance from dangerous specimens. Use protective equipment. Do not make sudden movements. Basic rules that anyone who worked with animals would know. He watched as the first pair of students was called to the examination room. They looked terrified. One of them was shaking visibly as they walked through the door. This is going to be a long day, Taesung muttered. He was reading the safety documentation for the third time, memorizing every detail. Hyunwoo said nothing. He was thinking about the Thornback Prowler. Something about it interested him. Maybe it was the way it moved in the hologram. Maybe it was the defensive posture it held. He recognized patterns, behaviors that seemed familiar despite the alien appearance. Around him, students whispered nervously. Some discussed strategies for handling the remote tools. Others debated which creature would be easiest to examine. A few looked at Hyunwoo with curiosity, wondering how the human would handle the situation. They did not know yet. None of them knew. But they were about to find out what it meant to come from a death world. They were about to learn why humans had such a dangerous reputation, and they were about to have every assumption they held challenged by a simple demonstration of courage and understanding. The first pair of students returned from the examination room after nearly 3 hours. They looked exhausted and shaken. One of them had activated the emergency release twice, flooding the room with neutralizing foam both times. Professor Ixthari did not look pleased, but she said nothing about the delays. The second pair took even longer. 4 hours passed before they emerged, looking pale and tired. They had successfully documented all 4 creatures, but it had taken every safety measure available and the assistance of 2 faculty members. Hyunwoo and Taesung were called after the lunch break. By then, everyone had heard stories from the previous students. The creatures were more aggressive than expected. The remote tools were difficult to control. The protective fields sometimes interfered with the scanning equipment. Every pair had struggled. Remember, Taesung said as they walked toward the examination room, we must be careful. Extremely careful. These are dangerous creatures from dangerous worlds. I remember, Hyunwoo replied calmly. They entered the examination room and stopped. It was larger than Hyunwoo expected. The space was divided into 4 separate containment areas, each with its own environmental controls and force fields. Medical equipment lined one wall. Emergency stations were positioned at regular intervals. Everything was designed for maximum safety. Professor Ixthari was already inside checking the containment fields. Welcome, she said. Your examination time begins now. You have 2 hours. All safety protocols must be followed. If you feel unsafe at any time, use the emergency release button. Do you understand? Yes, Professor, both students replied. Good. You may begin with any specimen you choose. I will observe from the control room. The professor left through a side door and they heard it lock behind her. They were alone with the creatures. Taesung immediately went to the equipment station and began putting on a full environmental suit. He selected the heaviest gloves available, the kind designed for handling radioactive materials. He activated 3 separate force field generators and positioned them around himself. Hyunwoo watched his friend with amusement, but said nothing. If Taesung felt safer that way, it was fine. He approached the first containment area and looked inside. The frost serpent was beautiful in a cold, alien way. It moved slowly through its frozen environment, leaving trails of ice crystals in the air. Its scales reflected light like diamonds. Through the force field, Hyunwoo could feel waves of cold air. Let us start with this one, Taesung said, his voice muffled by the suit. It seems the least aggressive. They spent 30 minutes examining the frost serpent using remote manipulation arms. The tools were awkward and slow. Every movement had to be calculated carefully. The serpent did not seem to mind their attention. It simply continued moving through its frozen habitat, occasionally coiling around pieces of ice. Hyunwoo documented its physical features while Taesung operated the scanning equipment. They worked well together, even though Taesung insisted on maintaining maximum distance at all times. The magma beetle was next. It scuttled around its superheated chamber, occasionally burrowing into piles of volcanic rock. Heat radiated from the containment field, making the air shimmer. The beetle's carapace glowed orange and red, pulsing with internal heat. Fascinating, Hyunwoo said, watching the creature. It does not seem aggressive at all. Just curious. Curious and dangerous, Taesung corrected. The temperature inside that chamber would vaporize most species instantly. But it is not trying to escape or attack. It is just living its life, Hyunwoo observed. They documented the beetle's behavior and physical characteristics. The remote tools overheated twice, requiring them to switch to backup equipment. By the time they finished, 45 minutes had passed. They were halfway through their time limit. The void floater was the strangest creature Hyunwoo had ever seen. It drifted through its near-vacuum chamber like a ghost, its translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Long tendrils trailed behind it, occasionally brushing against the containment walls. How does it even survive? Taesung wondered. There is almost no atmosphere in there. Life finds a way, Hyunwoo said. He had heard that phrase from one of his professors on Earth. It seemed appropriate here. The void floater was delicate and required gentle handling of the equipment. They completed their documentation carefully, taking extra time to record its unusual movement patterns. Finally, they reached the last containment area. The thornback prowler. The creature paced back and forth in its habitat, which was designed to look like a forest floor. Plants grew in one corner. Rocks provided hiding places. A small stream of water ran along one side. But the prowler was not using any of these features. It was focused entirely on them. The creature was about a meter long from nose to tail tip. 6 legs ended in sharp claws. Its body was covered in overlapping plates that bristled with spines. The spines looked sharp enough to pierce metal. Its tail swayed behind it, the stinger on the end dripping with something that looked like venom. This one is actively hostile, Taesung said nervously. Look at its posture. It sees us as threats. Hyunwoo studied the creature carefully. Taesung was right about the posture, but wrong about the reason. It is scared, Hyunwoo said. Scared? That is a predator. Class 4 classification. It is not scared of us. Yes, it is. Look at how it is standing. The spines are raised because it feels threatened. It is defensive, not aggressive. There is a difference. Taesung did not look convinced, but he did not argue. He activated the remote manipulation arms and prepared to begin the examination from maximum safe distance. They worked for several minutes, trying to get clear scans of the prowler. But the creature would not stay still. Every time the remote arms moved, it reacted by spinning to face them, spines bristling even more. This is not working, Taesung said, frustrated. The creature is too agitated. We cannot get accurate readings. Hyunwoo watched the prowler pace and turn. Its movements reminded him of animals back on Earth. Scared animals that did not understand they were safe. Animals that needed calm handling, not mechanical arms and force fields. An idea formed in his mind. A crazy idea. The kind of idea that Tai-Sung would definitely not approve of. But it might work. What if we tried a different approach? Hyunwoo suggested carefully. What do you mean? We are following all the protocols. We are using all the safety equipment. What other approach is there? Hyunwoo did not answer immediately. He walked over to the control panel next to the containment field. He studied the information displayed there. Environmental conditions, containment integrity, threat assessment, and something else. A biocompatibility scan. He activated the scan, targeting himself and the Prowler. The results appeared on the screen after a few seconds. Taesung noticed what he was doing and came over, moving awkwardly in his protective suit. What are you checking? Taesung asked. Just curious about something, Hyunwoo replied. He read through the scan results carefully. The Prowler's venom was designed to affect certain biological systems. Its toxicity rating was high for most species. But for humans, the results were different. The venom would cause pain and swelling, similar to a bee sting on Earth. Unpleasant but not dangerous. The spines could pierce human skin, but they were not strong enough to cause serious injury. This creature is classified as Class 4 predator, Hyunwoo said slowly. But what does that actually mean? It means it is extremely dangerous, Taesung replied. It can kill most prey species on its homeworld. Its venom is toxic. Its spines are deadly weapons. Why are you asking these questions? I am asking because I want to know if it is dangerous to me specifically. Taesung's breathing slit stopped moving for a moment. What? The biocompatibility scan shows that its venom is not lethal to humans. Its spines can hurt me, but they cannot kill me. So is it really that dangerous? Are you insane? Taesung's voice rose in pitch. Just because something cannot kill you instantly does not mean it is safe. It can still cause serious harm. On Earth, we have many creatures that can cause serious harm. We handle them regularly. Hyunwoo turned to face his friend. I used to volunteer at a wildlife rehabilitation center. I have handled venomous snakes. I have worked with large predators. This creature is dangerous, yes, but not in ways I have not dealt with before. Taesung stared at him through the faceplate of his suit. You cannot be thinking what I think you are thinking. Hyunwoo looked back at the Prowler. It was still pacing, still defensive, still scared. What if I could calm it down? What if I could get better data by approaching it properly, instead of scaring it with mechanical arms? Professor Ixthari would never allow it. Then maybe I should ask her. Hyunwoo walked to the communication panel and pressed the button. Professor, I have a question about the examination protocols. Professor Ixthari's voice came through the speaker, her crystalline tone slightly distorted by the communication system. Yes, Hyunwoo? Is there a problem? No problem, Professor. I have a question about handling procedures. Are we required to use remote manipulation tools for all specimens? There was a pause. The safety protocols strongly recommend remote handling for all dangerous specimens. Why do you ask? Because I believe I could gather better data through direct observation and handling. The Thornback Prowler is too agitated by the mechanical arms. I would like permission to approach it directly. The silence that followed was longer this time. Taesung made a sound that was somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. Through the observation window, they could see Professor Ixthari stand up from her console. You want to handle the Class 4 predator directly? Her voice carried a note of disbelief. Without force fields or protective equipment? I would be careful, Professor. I have experience with similar creatures on Earth. The biocompatibility scan shows that while the creature is dangerous, it is not lethal to humans. I believe the risk is acceptable. Absolutely not, Taesung interrupted, his voice high with panic. This is insane. You cannot do this. I forbid it. You cannot forbid me to do anything, Hyunwoo said gently, but I appreciate your concern. Professor Ixthari appeared at the observation window, her crystalline body refracting the light in agitated patterns. Hyunwoo, I must remind you that this creature has venom and toxic spines. Even if it cannot kill you, it can cause significant pain and injury. I understand, Professor, but on Earth we have a saying. You cannot learn to swim by staying on the shore. Sometimes, to truly understand something, you must interact with it directly. I can read the creature's body language. I can approach it in a way that will not trigger its defenses. I believe I can do this safely. Another long pause. Hyunwoo waited patiently. Taesung was gripping his arm, trying to pull him away from the containment field. If I allow this, the professor said slowly, and I am not saying I will, What safety measures would you accept? Medical team on standby. Emergency neutralizing foam ready. You maintain control of the containment field. If anything goes wrong, you seal the field immediately and I step back. This is against every protocol we have. I know, Professor, but protocols are designed for species that did not evolve on Deathworlds. Humans are different. We have different tolerances, different skills, different experiences. Professor Ixthari was quiet for a long moment. Her light patterns shifted through the spectrum, a sign of deep thought in her species. Finally, she spoke. Very well, but I want full medical monitoring. I want emergency services present. And if I judge that you are in any real danger, I will override your actions and seal the containment field. Do you accept these terms? Yes, Professor. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. This may be the most foolish thing I have ever permitted in my classroom. The communication channel closed. Tae-sung grabbed Hyun-woo's shoulders and turned him around. You do not have to do this. We can complete the examination with the remote tools. It will take longer, but it is safe. Please do not risk yourself for a school assignment. Hyun-woo smiled at his friend. I'm not risking myself. I know what I am doing. Trust me. How can I trust you when you are about to approach a venomous predator without protection? Because I have done this before. Different creatures, same principles. Animals are animals, whether they are from Earth or from Verdantia. They have patterns. They have behaviors. If you understand those things, you can work with them safely. The door to the examination room opened and 3 faculty members entered, carrying medical equipment. They set up monitoring devices and prepared emergency supplies. One of them approached Hyun-woo with a scanner. I need to establish your baseline vitals, the medic said. A crystalline like the professor, but smaller and more rounded. Heart rate, blood pressure, neural activity. If any of these spike beyond acceptable ranges, we will intervene. Hyun-woo stood still while the medic attached various sensors to his skin. The devices were cold and slightly uncomfortable, but necessary. He glanced at the prowler while he waited. The creature was watching all the activity with alert eyes. It had stopped pacing and now crouched near the back of its habitat, spines fully extended. Baseline established, the medic announced. But I must state for the record that I strongly oppose this course of action. Your opposition is noted, Professor Ixthari said from the observation room. Hyun-woo, you may proceed when ready. Everyone else, please step back to minimum safe distance. Tae-sung reluctantly moved to the far corner of the room, as far from the containment field as possible. The medical team positioned themselves near the emergency controls. Everyone was tense, ready to react at the first sign of trouble. Hyun-woo approached the control panel for the containment field. His hand hovered over the deactivation button. This was the moment. Once he pressed it, there would be nothing between him and a venomous predator except his own knowledge and skill. He took a slow breath and pressed the button. The humming of the force field stopped. The barrier that had separated them vanished. The prowler's head snapped up, focusing entirely on Hyun-woo. Its spines bristled even more, if that was possible. A low sound came from its throat, something between a hiss and a growl. Hyun-woo did not move forward. Not yet. He stood still, making himself non-threatening. He kept his hands visible and relaxed at his sides. He did not make direct eye contact with the creature, instead looking slightly to the side. These were tactics he had learned working with Earth animals. Predators saw direct stares as challenges. Sudden movements triggered chase instincts. The key was to appear calm and non-threatening. Easy, he said softly. Nobody is going to hurt you. The prowler watched him but did not move. Its tail swayed slowly behind it, the stinger ready but not striking. It was waiting to see what this strange creature would do. Hyun-woo took one small step forward. Then he stopped. He waited several seconds, letting the prowler adjust to his presence. The creature's spines lowered slightly, though it remained alert. Another small step. Another pause. Slow, steady, predictable movements. Nothing that would trigger a defensive response. Behind him, Hyun-woo could hear Tae-sung's rapid breathing, even through the environmental suit. The medical team's equipment beeped softly, monitoring his vitals. Professor Ixthari watched from the observation window, her hand hovering over the emergency controls. Hyun-woo continued his careful approach. Each step was small and deliberate. Each pause gave the prowler time to evaluate and realize he was not a threat. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only 2 minutes, he was within arm's reach of the creature. The prowler had stopped hissing. Its spines had lowered to a more neutral position. It still watched him carefully, but the aggressive posture was gone. Now it just looked curious, trying to understand what this strange being wanted. "Good," Hyunwoo said quietly. "You are doing very well." He slowly crouched down, making himself lower and less imposing. The prowler tilted its head, studying him from a new angle. Hyunwoo extended one hand, moving very slowly, palm down and fingers relaxed. He did not try to touch the creature yet. He just let it see that his hand was not a weapon. The prowler leaned forward slightly, extending its neck. Its nose twitched, taking in his scent. It was the same behavior that Earth animals showed when investigating something new and potentially interesting. "That is right. Just checking me out. I'm not dangerous." Hyunwoo kept his voice soft and steady. The words did not matter. The tone did. After another moment of consideration, the prowler took a step closer. It sniffed his hand carefully, its nose almost touching his skin. Hyunwoo remained perfectly still. This was the critical moment. If the creature decided he was a threat, it would strike now, but it did not strike. Instead, it made a soft chirping sound and lowered its head slightly. Recognition flooded through Hyunwoo. He had seen this behavior before in Earth animals. It was a sign of acceptance, of acknowledgement. The prowler was saying in its own way that he was not an enemy. Very slowly, Hyunwoo moved his hand to rest on the creature's head, carefully avoiding the spines. The prowler did not flinch. Its skin was warm and covered in fine scales between the armored plates. He could feel it breathing, feel the tension in its muscles. It was still alert, still ready to defend itself if necessary, but it was allowing contact. "Good," Hyunwoo said. "You are very brave." He heard a crash behind him. Taesung had knocked over a piece of equipment in shock. The medical team stood frozen, staring at the impossible scene before them. Professor Ixthari's light patterns had gone completely still. Hyunwoo ignored them all. He focused on the prowler, slowly running his hand along its neck and back, learning its body structure through touch. His other hand came up to support its weight as he gently guided it into a better position for examination. With the prowler calm and accepting his touch, Hyunwoo began a proper examination. He carefully moved his hands along its body, feeling the structure of its spine plates and the placement of its defensive spines. The creature remained still, occasionally making soft chirping sounds that seemed almost curious. "The spines are arranged in overlapping rows," Hyunwoo said aloud, providing commentary for his examination. "They can be raised or lowered voluntarily. When lowered, they lie flat against the body plates, probably for moving through dense vegetation. The tail has exceptional flexibility. The stinger at the end has a small venom sac visible just beneath the surface." He gently lifted one of the prowler's front legs, examining the foot structure. 6 legs, each with retractable claws. The middle pair appears more developed, probably used for climbing. The creature is lighter than it looks. Most of the bulk is armor, not body mass. The prowler allowed all of this handling without resistance. It seemed to understand that Hyunwoo meant no harm. At one point, it even leaned into his touch, similar to how Earth cats pressed against friendly hands. "This is impossible," one of the medical team members whispered. "That creature should be attacking right now. Every instinct should be telling it to defend itself." "It is not attacking because it does not feel threatened," Hyunwoo explained, still focused on the prowler. "I approached correctly. I read its body language. I showed it that I was not prey and not a threat. Just another creature sharing space." He spent another 10 minutes conducting the most thorough examination any student had managed. He documented everything through verbal description, as his hands were occupied with the actual handling. Taesung, still standing at the far end of the room, managed to operate the recording equipment with shaking hands. Finally, Hyunwoo gently lowered the prowler back to the ground. He stroked its head one more time, then slowly stood up and backed away. The prowler watched him go but made no attempt to follow. It settled onto the ground, spines completely relaxed now, and simply observed as Hyunwoo returned to the safe area. The moment he was clear, Professor Ixthari reactivated the containment field. The force barrier hummed back to life, once again separating the prowler from the rest of the room. Nobody spoke for a long moment. The medical team stared at Hyunwoo like he had just performed an impossible magic trick. Taesung had collapsed against the wall, his suit's systems beeping with alerts about his elevated stress levels. Professor Ixthari slowly emerged from the observation room, her light patterns swirling in confused patterns. I have been teaching xenobiology for 43 years, the professor said quietly. I have never seen anything like that. How did you do it? Hyunwoo shrugged. I treated it like an animal instead of a specimen. Animals respond to body language and tone. They understand threat and safety. The prowler was scared because everyone approached it with fear and mechanical tools. I approached it with confidence and respect. That made all the difference. But the danger, one medic protested. The venom, the spines. One wrong move and you could have been seriously injured. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. But I did not make a wrong move. I knew what I was doing. How? Professor Ixthari asked. How did you know? That creature is from a planet you have never visited, a species you have never encountered before today. Because I have encountered similar behaviors from Earth creatures. Predators have patterns. Defensive postures are recognizable across species. Fear looks the same whether you have 6 legs or 4. The details are different, but the principles are universal. He walked over to where Tai-sung was still leaning against the wall. Are you okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? Tai-sung's voice was high and strained. I just watched my roommate pet a Class 4 predator like it was a domestic companion animal. My species has no comparison for this. We have no dangerous animals. We have no predators. I have no context for understanding what I just witnessed. Then let me give you context, Hyunwoo said gently. He helped his friend to a chair and began removing the bulky environmental suit. On Earth, humans have always lived alongside dangerous creatures. We evolved with them. Large predators hunted us. Venomous creatures threatened us. The environment itself tried to kill us regularly. We survived by learning to understand these dangers and work with them when possible. Professor Ixthari moved closer, her attention completely focused on Hyunwoo now. Tell me more about Earth. I know it is classified as a death world, but I have never fully understood what that means in practical terms. Hyunwoo thought for a moment, trying to find words that would convey the reality of Earth to beings who had never experienced anything like it. Earth has more apex predators per square kilometer than most planets have on their entire surface. We have creatures that hunt in packs, creatures that ambush from hiding, creatures that use venom, creatures that use strength, and humans learn to survive among all of them. But surely you had technology, weapons, defenses? Eventually, yes. But for most of our evolution, we had none of that. Just intelligence, cooperation, and the willingness to face danger when necessary. We learned which creatures were truly dangerous and which were just defending themselves. We learned to read animal behavior. We learned to work with nature instead of just fearing it. One of the medical team members spoke up. What about the venom? Were you not concerned about being stung? Of course I was concerned. But I was also confident. The biocompatibility scan showed the venom would hurt but not kill me. On Earth we have insects called bees. Their stings are painful, but we still work with them to harvest honey. We have snakes with venom that can kill. We still study them and sometimes relocate them from dangerous areas. Pain is temporary. Knowledge is permanent. This is the Deathworlder perspective, Professor Ixthari said, her tones thoughtful. You do not avoid all danger. You assess it, understand it, and accept certain risks for greater rewards. Exactly, Hyunwoo confirmed. Not all risks are worth taking. But some are. The key is knowing which is which. Tae-sung had finally recovered enough to speak normally. I think I understand now why humans have the reputation they do. You are all insane, Hyunwoo laughed. Maybe a little bit, but it is a useful kind of insane. The examination continued with the other students. Word spread quickly through the academy about what had happened. By the time the next pair entered the examination room, a crowd had gathered at the observation window. Students from other classes came to watch. Faculty members appeared to see the human who had handled a Class 4 predator with his bare hands. Each new pair of students struggled with the same challenges as before. The remote tools were awkward. The creatures remained agitated. Documentation took hours. But now they all knew it did not have to be that way. They had seen a different approach. They had watched Hyunwoo demonstrate that understanding and respect could overcome fear. When all the examinations were finally complete, Professor Ixthari called an impromptu class discussion. Students crowded into the classroom, filling every available space. Some watched from the hallway through the open door. Today we witnessed something unusual, the professor began. We saw different approaches to the same problem. Most of you followed protocol exactly as taught. You used safety equipment, maintained distance, and prioritized your protection above all else. This is correct for most species. She paused, her light patterns shifting. But Hyunwoo showed us an alternative. He demonstrated that sometimes the safest approach is not the most distant one. Sometimes understanding requires closeness. Sometimes respect requires courage. Young Mai raised a tentative hand, her antennae twitching. Professor, I have a question. Is it true that Earth has creatures more dangerous than the thornback prowler? Yes, Hyunwoo answered before the professor could. Much more dangerous. We have a creature called a Portuguese man-o'-war. It is an ocean predator with tentacles that can stretch 40 meters. Its sting causes extreme pain and can kill without treatment. We have crocodiles that can bite with thousands of kilograms of force. We have bears that weigh over 800 kilograms and can run faster than most humans. The classroom was completely silent. Every student stared at Hyunwoo with a mixture of horror and fascination. And yet humans survive, Ji-won said from her water suit, her voice bubbling through the translator. How? We adapt, we learn. We pass knowledge between generations. We teach our children to recognize danger and respect it without being paralyzed by fear. Hyunwoo looked around at all the alien faces watching him. Every species here has its own strengths. Daehyun's people can survive extreme heat. Ji-won's people can thrive in deep water. Taesung's people have incredible pattern recognition and memory. Humans have the ability to function under extreme stress and danger. It is just how we evolved. The discussion continued late into the evening. Students who had never spoken to Hyunwoo before asked him questions about Earth. They wanted to know about the oceans that could crush most species with pressure. They wanted to hear about the deserts where temperatures could kill in hours. They asked about storms that threw wind and lightning. They were horrified and amazed in equal measure. Daehyun, who had been so proud of his heat resistance earlier, approached Hyunwoo after the discussion ended. His glowing skin had dimmed slightly, a sign of embarrassment in his species. I need to apologize, Daehyun said quietly. I have been arrogant. I thought my ability to withstand heat made me special. But you showed real courage today. Not the courage of biological resistance, but the courage of choice. That is much more impressive, Hyunwoo smiled. Your heat resistance is still impressive. I certainly could not do what you do. Every species has different strengths. That is why we are all here learning together. Over the next few days, something shifted in the academy. Students who had avoided Hyunwoo before now sought him out. They wanted to understand the Deathworlder perspective. They asked about risk assessment, about reading animal behavior, about facing fear. Young Mi was particularly interested. She approached him in the cafeteria 3 days after the examination, her antennae releasing curious pheromones. Could you teach me? She asked shyly. Not to handle dangerous creatures. I know my species is too fragile for that. But to understand them better? To see them as you do? Of course, Hyunwoo replied. What would you like to know? Everything, Youngmi said. My people avoid danger completely. We have engineered our world to be perfectly safe. But watching you made me realize we might be missing something important. Fear keeps us safe, but maybe it also keeps us small. Hyunwoo thought about her words. Fear is useful. It keeps you alive. But you are right that too much fear limits you. The trick is finding balance. Respect danger without being controlled by it. Young Mi considered this, her antennae waving thoughtfully. Could you give a presentation? About Earth's creatures and how you learn to work with them. I think many students would benefit from hearing it. Word of the proposed presentation spread quickly. Professor Ixthari not only approved, but made it an official academy lecture. She reserved the largest auditorium and opened attendance to all students and faculty. The night of the presentation, Hyunwoo stood backstage feeling slightly nervous. He had handled a venomous predator without fear. But speaking in front of hundreds of alien students made his hands sweat. Taesung noticed his friend's anxiety and placed a hand on his shoulder. You will do well, Taesung said. Just be yourself. Tell them what you told me. Help them understand. The auditorium was completely full when Hyunwoo walked onto the stage. Every seat was taken. Students sat in the aisles. Some hung from the ceiling supports. Faculty members lined the walls. He had not expected such a large audience. He activated the holographic display and began showing images from Earth. He started with landscapes, showing the variety of environments his planet contained. Frozen tundras, burning deserts, deep oceans, dense jungles, each environment more extreme than most species had ever encountered. Then he showed the animals. He started with smaller creatures and worked his way up. Insects, reptiles, fish, birds, mammals. With each image, he explained the danger it represented and how humans had learned to coexist with it. The audience reactions ranged from fascination to horror. When he showed a video of a human swimming with sharks, several students left the auditorium. When he showed children playing with dogs, there were gasps of shock. Dogs were predators by many species standards, yet humans kept them as companions and allowed offspring near them. "I know this seems insane to most of you," Hyunwoo said, "but this is normal for humans. We grew up with these dangers. We learned to assess them individually. Not all predators want to hurt you. Many just want to be left alone. Some can even form bonds with humans if approached correctly." Jiwon raised a tentacle from her water suit. "But how do you know which ones are safe? How do you tell the difference between a creature that will tolerate you and one that will attack?" "Experience, education, and observation," Hyunwoo explained. "We teach our children from a young age. We pass down knowledge about which creatures are truly dangerous and which are just defensive. We watch their body language. We learn their patterns. It becomes instinctive after a while." He showed more images: rock climbing without safety equipment, cave diving in underwater caverns, parachuting from aircraft. To the alien students, these looked like elaborate suicide attempts. But Hyunwoo explained the training, preparation, and risk management that went into each activity. "Humans do not have a death wish," he said. "We just have a different relationship with risk. We believe that some experiences are worth the danger. We believe that facing challenges makes us stronger. We believe that testing our limits helps us grow." Professor Ixtheri stood from her seat in the front row. "This is the core difference between Deathworlders and other species. Most civilizations evolved on relatively safe worlds. They developed technology and society without constant environmental pressure, but humans had to fight for survival every day. This shaped your psychology, your culture, your entire approach to life." "Yes," Hyunwoo agreed. "And it is not better or worse than other approaches. It is just different. Your species have developed incredible technologies and peaceful societies. Because you were not constantly fighting for survival, my species developed resilience and adaptability because we had to. Both paths have value." The presentation continued for 2 hours. Hyunwoo showed videos of extreme sports, dangerous professions, and wildlife conservation work. He explained how humans had learned to coexist with creatures that would terrify most galactic citizens. He talked about respect, understanding, and the careful balance between caution and courage. By the end, the audience's fear had transformed into something else. It's not quite admiration, but perhaps understanding. They still thought humans were slightly crazy, but now they understood why. The question and answer session lasted another hour. Students wanted to know everything. How did humans stay calm in danger? What happened when someone got hurt? Did all humans have this courage or just some? "Not all humans are the same," Hyunwoo explained. "Some of us love adventure and danger. Others prefer safety and comfort. But even the most cautious human has a baseline tolerance for risk that would seem extreme to most of you. It is just how we are built." As the session ended and students began filing out, many stopped to thank Hyunwoo. Youngmi approached with several of her friends, all looking nervous but excited. "We want to try something," Youngmi said. "There is a biodome on the academy grounds with creatures from moderately dangerous worlds. Nothing as extreme as Earth, but still challenging for species like mine. Would you be willing to take us there? To teach us how to observe dangerous creatures properly?" Hyunwoo looked at the group of students. They were all from species considered fragile by galactic standards. They had probably never faced real danger in their lives, but their eyes showed genuine curiosity and willingness to learn. "Yes," he said, "but we do it carefully. We start with the least dangerous creatures and work our way up slowly. We follow safety protocols but push boundaries gradually, and everyone can stop at any time if they feel uncomfortable." "Agreed." They all agreed enthusiastically. 2 days later, Hyunwoo led a small group through the biodome. Along with Youngmi, there was Jiwon in her water suit, Daehyun looking determined to redeem himself, and of course Taesung, who refused to let his friend go anywhere potentially dangerous without supervision. The biodome contained creatures from worlds, slightly more hazardous than most civilized planets, but nowhere near Earth's level. For Hyunwoo, they were interesting, but not particularly threatening. For his companions, they were genuinely scary. They started with a creature called a scale glider from a low-gravity world. It was about the size of a cat, with membranous wings and small claws. To most species, it was classified as mildly dangerous due to those claws. To Hyunwoo, it was adorable. "Watch how it moves," he instructed the group. They kept a safe distance, with Taesung positioned between everyone and the creature. "See how it turns its head to track movement? That means it is aware of us but not threatened. If it felt danger, it would either fly away or puff up its body to look larger." The scale glider groomed itself, completely unconcerned with the observers. After several minutes, it glided down from its perch and landed near them, curious about the strange visitors. Youngmi trembled as the creature approached. Her pheromones spiked with fear, but she held her ground. Hyunwoo noticed and gave her an encouraging nod. "You are doing great," he said quietly. "Just stay calm. Let it investigate." The scale glider sniffed at Youngmi's feet, then lost interest and moved on to examine Jiwon's water suit. It tapped the transparent material with one claw, producing a small clicking sound. Jiwon bubbled nervously but did not retreat. They spent an hour with the scale glider, learning to read its behavior and becoming comfortable in its presence. By the end, even Taesung was relaxed enough to move closer.